At exactly 0317 hours on May 25, 2026, in the pitch-black waters of the Strait of Hormuz, 2 Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps fast attack craft ghosted out of a cove east of Bandar Abbas. Radar silent. No AIS transponders. Running dark. They weren't on a combat patrol. They were laying mines. Bottom influence devices, magnetically triggered, designed to detonate under the keel of a supertanker and blow a hole in the world's energy supply. What they didn't know, they were already being watched. 41,000 feet above the Gulf, a U.S. Air Force RQ-4B Global Hawk had been tracking those engine compartments since 0200 hours. At the same time, a P-8A Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft positively identified the distinctive acoustic signature of Bogomar-class fast boats, a sound profile cataloged in U.S. Navy databases since the 1980s tanker war. The data fused instantly across the Cooperative Engagement Capability Network, painting both contacts on the Combat Information Center of the USS Gravely, DDG-107, an Arleigh Burke destroyer on patrol 40 miles south of the Strait's narrowest point. CENTCOM watch officers classified the activity. Threat Category Bravo, direct hazard to freedom of navigation. The decision cycle had begun. Then, at 0323 hours, the situation went critical. A surface-to-air missile battery northwest of Bandar Abbas, an improved Hawk derivative with Iranian-manufactured seekers, swept its fire control radar across U.S. aircraft operating in international airspace over the Gulf. Not a routine scan, a fire control lock. In CENTCOM's rules of engagement, locking a targeting radar onto an American aircraft is not a warning. It is the first kinetic act of war. The authorization threshold had been crossed. 2 F/A-18E Super Hornets from USS Gerald R. Ford, CVN-78, already airborne on a combat air patrol, descended toward their weapons release altitude. Each carried 2 AGM-88E advanced anti-radiation guided missiles, the AARGM, weapons specifically engineered to track and destroy radar emitters, even if those radars go silent mid-flight. The AARGM doesn't care if you turn off your radar. It has already memorized your position. At 0327 hours, 43 seconds, both aircraft released. 4 missiles screamed toward the SAM battery at Mach 2. Simultaneously, the USS Gravely opened fire. Its Mark 38 25mm naval autocannons, 180 rounds per minute, tore into the first IRGC fast boat at a range of 3.1 nautical miles. The fiberglass hull disintegrated in 4 seconds. The second boat attempted a high-speed turn toward Iranian coastal waters. It never completed it. A follow-on burst disabled the engine compartment, dead in the water, on fire. 11 seconds later, the 4 AGM-88E missiles detonated on the Bandar Abbas SAM battery. 3 direct hits on the radar van and launcher units. The 4th took out the generator cluster. The entire battery was gone. Total elapsed time from fire control radar lock to destruction of both threats, 4 minutes and 12 seconds. No U.S. personnel injured, no aircraft lost, no civilian vessels struck. But the geopolitical shockwave that followed was, arguably, more dangerous than the strike itself. What the headlines didn't tell you, at the exact same moment those IRGC boats were slipping into the strait, Iranian and American diplomats were sitting across a table in Doha, Qatar, with Pakistani mediators, drafting a framework to end the entire 3-month war. Both delegations had been awake for 36 hours. A deal was within reach. Then the news from the Strait broke. The Iranian delegation exploded. Tehran's IRGC released a statement within the hour. Iran considers this a clear and flagrant violation of the ceasefire and reserves the absolute right to a reciprocal response at a time and place of its own designation. That phrase, time and place of its own designation, is the specific language Tehran uses in the 72 hours before a retaliatory strike. CENTCOM immediately elevated all bases across the Middle East to FPCON Delta, the highest force protection level. The Ford Carrier Strike Group closed to within 90 miles of the strait, and placed its entire air wing on a 15-minute combat launch cycle. EA-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft blanketed the Gulf with jamming coverage. U.S. intelligence reported that Iranian Imad and Shahab-3 ballistic missile TELs had changed position overnight, the classic pre-launch dispersal pattern analysts call the scatter. The entire Middle East was on a knife's edge. Here is what most analysis has missed. The IRGC's mine operation was not rogue escalation. It was deliberate strategy. The devices being placed in the strait were designed to hit supertankers, not warships. This was not a military attack. It was an economic warfare operation, run concurrently with peace negotiations, designed to create an oil price explosion and blame the United States for the resulting crisis. The simultaneous SAM radar lock on U.S. aircraft was likely engineered to provoke an American strike that Iran could then wave at the negotiating table as proof of American aggression. It was a trap, a sophisticated dual-track trap. The trap didn't work because the surveillance architecture watching the Gulf in 2026 leaves no darkness to hide in. From the moment those IRGC engines powered up at 0200 hours, a Global Hawk was tracking them from 41,000 feet. A P-8A was listening to their acoustic signature, and an Arleigh Burke had them painted on its CECIC network. The response was surgical, targeted only at the specific threats that crossed the engagement line. No strikes on port infrastructure, no escalation beyond the immediate tactical threat. The message was not, "We are at war." The message was, "We see everything. We can hit exactly what we choose." Do not mistake restraint for inability. As of today, 72 hours after the strike, the IRGC has not retaliated. The Doha talks resumed after a 14-hour suspension. The ceasefire is holding. But the mines placed on May 25th have not all been recovered. U.S. and coalition mine countermeasure vessels are sweeping the bottom of the shipping lane right now with helicopter-deployed sonar systems and remotely operated vehicles. Because until every device is found, every supertanker transiting the strait is playing Russian roulette with the global energy supply. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. 21 miles of water through which 21 million barrels of oil flow every single day. Whoever controls that choke point holds a lever over the entire global economy. The IRGC knew that. They tried to seize that lever in the dark. They failed. This time. But here is the question that matters. What happens the next time? If a mine goes undetected? If a 300,000-ton supertanker detonates over a device that was laid during a ceasefire, during peace talks, in the middle of the night? The entire diplomatic architecture collapses overnight. The war restarts, and the next strike package won't be 4 AGM-88s against a single radar site. That is the shadow war of 2026. Not the carrier strike groups, not the ballistic missiles. It is a small mine countermeasure vessel, dragging a sonar cable through cold, dark water, looking for a device that should never have been placed there. If you were the CENTCOM commander, and the next mine claims a supertanker, do you hold the line, or does the next strike package bury the negotiating table forever? Comment your answer below, because the next 72 hours will decide whether the world gets a deal or a disaster.